Welcome everyone to the Urantia book. What is justice in the universe? Doesn't it seem like some people get away with everything and they laugh all the way to the bank? Or doesn't it seem odd that God would have a little basement in the universe for torture, where devils poke people in the ass with pitchforks for eternity? That doesn't seem like an all-loving concept. Well, but what about free will? It's all answered here, folks, in the Urantia book. So, if this book is what it says it is, then this should be the most succinct, clear, and perfect definition of justice that has ever been written or heard about or thought about. Let us embark. Remember, keep an open mind. There might be terms that they're using from the Bible because they're taking the best of anything that's been said on the planet and synthesizing it. So they're showing that the Bible did have some seeds of great truth, but then they're going to advance upon that. So just relax and keep an open mind. Don't let any of these word symbols throw you off. Look for the concepts, like right off the rip. Justice and righteousness, page 36. Okay? God is righteous, therefore he is just. The Lord is righteous in all his ways. So remember that word Lord, you can think of administrator if you want to update it, make it not sound as archaic, but that is literally a quote probably from the Bible. It says, I have not done without cause all that I have done, says the Lord. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. The justice of the universal Father cannot be influenced by the acts and performances of his creatures. For there is no iniquity with the Lord our God, no respect of persons, no taking of gifts. So that right there is a really important sentence. So you cannot do something like throw 10 virgins into a volcano and then say, well, there you go, God, now let's, can you show a little bit of favoritism upon me? There's no favoritism in the universe. And that's where this phrase, no respect of persons. If you were to respect one, that means you didn't respect the other. It's all equal, even the sinners and all that sort of thing. So how futile to make puerile appeals to such a God, to modify his changeless decrees so that we can avoid the just consequences of the operation of his wise natural laws and righteous spiritual mandates. So a good example of that would be the sacrifice on the cross. That was supposedly changed God's attitude. It was a necessity in the universe for God's attitude to be changed towards the humans. Well, this book, even in our last reading from yesterday, teaches God's attitude doesn't need to change. You're talking about eternal perfection from before time, before there was a planet Earth. So it's always perfect, it's be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man sows, that shall he also reap. Another quote probably sounds somewhat biblical. But it's saying there's nobody's laughing all the way to the bank. But let's hear why. True, even in the justice of reaping the harvest of wrongdoing, this divine justice is always tempered with mercy. So that is your loving God aspect, understanding where we are at on our journey. Oh, I made a mistake. I didn't know that was going to be bad, or I was selfish in that moment. Okay, well, there's mercy. You don't have to reap that harvest exactly as it was sown, because your credits outweigh your debits in the universe. Unlike a perfect system of karma, which would be an exact, unmerciful scale, right? Where one happens and then you have to exactly have that done back unto you. There is mercy in the universe. There is understanding by the divine. Infinite wisdom is the eternal arbiter, which determines the proportions of justice and mercy. So that answers it right there. You have an infinitely wise being who says, well, he really did know better, and he did purposely choose to do that, to undermine that other individual. which shall be meted out in any given circumstance, right? So it's a proportion based on all wise, knowing beings. The greatest punishment, in reality, an inevitable consequence for wrongdoing and deliberate rebellion against the government of God, is the loss of existence as an individual subject of that government. So they're saying that's what happens. You don't do an eternity of hell. You do loss of existence, which makes much more sense. That, to me, you don't want to exist. If you keep divorcing yourself from the reality of spirituality and all of the mercy's been shown to you, then you don't want to exist. So why would somebody push you along and pull you along and say, no, 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 keep going, you have to exist, you have to exist? No. If somebody doesn't want to exist, that's all that they want to do. If they don't want to become spiritual, then they're not going to survive. And that's just all the mercy has been shown them, then that's just the way we want it to be. Justice is inherent in the universe. The final result of wholehearted sin is annihilation. So this is a good concept. In the last analysis, such sin-identified individuals have destroyed themselves by becoming wholly unreal through their embrace of iniquity. So it's basically like, if you're thinking about, let's say, the whole entire universe is underwater, for example, and you want to be a flame underwater and do sin, well, you just simply can't exist. It's against the nature of it. But the mercy will put a little bubble around you. So you can do flame and try it out and experience it and see. And then you say, oh, well, I keep getting burned out, but I'm going to keep trying to do it. Or I'm going to try to take it out of the bubble, so I can burn one of the other beings in the water. Then eventually they're just going to say, all right, well, no more bubble. That's just the way the universe is. Evil is unreal, it's just annihilation. It's unreal on spiritual levels. Here, it's relatively real, and we experience it. In the last analysis, such sin-identified individuals have destroyed themselves by becoming wholly unreal through their embrace of identity. The factual disappearance of such creatures is, however, always delayed until the ordained order of justice current in that universe has been fully complied with. So it relies on a whole dispensation. There's a planetary or a system-wide rebellion here happening, which is like 10,000 inhabited worlds. Secession of existence is usually decreed at the dispensational or epochal adjudication of the realms. On a world such as Urantia, it comes at the end of a planetary dispensation. Secession of existence can be decreed at such times by coordinate action of all tribunals of jurisdiction extending from the planetary council up through the courts of the Creator's Son to the judgment tribunals of the Ancients of Days. Those are very, very advanced beings on the sevenfold path to God. It's very high up there in the universe. Perfect judges that know exactly the caliber of your heart. The mandate of dissolution originates in the higher courts of the super universe, following an unbroken confirmation of the indictment originating on the sphere of the wrongdoer's residence, and then, when sentence of extinction has been confirmed on high, the execution is by the direct act of those judges residential on and operating from the headquarters of the super universe. So that's basically just about the structure of how it goes down. And the dispensational idea is that there would be many at a time, because they'd have to wait for the dispensation to kind of complete. If there's a system-wide rebellion like what happened on our planet and it sent it into turmoil, hence all the wars, hence all the terrible victimization and everything that's happening here on this planet. It was this huge turmoil. So there's going to be, have to have that taken into consideration, because we've been programmed from birth to be anti-God and anti-Christ. And if you don't believe that, just look at the world system of things. Look who we, are putting into power. And it's just very, very anti-God, literally. But it's that programming. So that has to be taken into consideration during all of this. When the sentence is finally confirmed, the sin-identified being instantly becomes as though they had not been. There you go. Perfect justice. They purposely went away from it, then they shouldn't exist. There's no resurrection from such a fate. It is everlasting and eternal. Okay, so no cartoon pitchfork idea in hell with a demon and all that. The living energy factors of identity are resolved by the transformations of time and the metamorphosis of space into the cosmic potentials whence they once emerged. As for the personality of the iniquitous one, it is deprived of continuing life vehicle by the creature's failure to make those choices and final decisions which would have assured eternal life. So it's not willy-nilly, right? So it's just the energy goes back into the supreme. When the continued embrace of sin by the associated mind culminates in complete self-identification with iniquity, then upon the cessation of life, upon cosmic dissolution, such an isolated personality is absorbed into the oversoul of creation, becoming a part of the evolving experience of the Supreme Being. So nothing is lost or wasted that has a spiritual value. There might be some learning experience for the Supreme, which is the evolving God of time and space, that can gain something. It's absorbed in the oversoul, but they're not having a personal experience of that. Never again does it appear as a personality. That's it. There's no more, let's say it was Ted. I don't even know. I don't know if this even happens to anybody. You know, I'm not sure. It doesn't say like, oh, and by the way, 5% of the people from your planet this happens to. I don't even know. It could happen to had nobody. I'm not sure. I don't know how much that mercy extends or how much that, you know, what's that proportion of justice. But it is saying there is an eventual stopping point. There is an eventual justice in the universe, and that's what we want. However cold it might sound, but that's what the person chose. We want justice, right? That way we'll be inspired to act more righteously. This is called justice and righteousness. Never again does it appear as a personality, okay? And then the spirit values survive in the reality of the continuing adjuster. So that's their spirit, their fragment of God, their thought adjuster. The thought adjuster doesn't cease to exist. It takes that lessons or whatever, and then it brings it into the next being that it inhabits. In any universe contest between the actual levels of reality, the personality of the higher level will ultimately triumph over the personality of the lower level. The inevitable outcome of universe controversy is inherent in the fact that divinity of quality equals the degree of reality. That is what reality is. It's how close to the divinity you are, the more real that you are. So if you divorce yourself from that, then you're just not real anymore. Or actuality of any will creature. Undiluted evil, complete error, willful sin, and unmitigated iniquity are inherently and automatically suicidal. Such attitudes of cosmic unreality can survive in the universe only because of transient mercy tolerance, that bubble idea, pending the action of the justice determining. It wouldn't even survive in the water on its own. If for 1 second, it would instantly dissolve itself, but the divine puts the bubble around the flame. Fairness finding mechanism, okay? Justice determined. There's all these different angels that are all like, you know, related to this fairness finding. They can search your heart and your soul. So nobody's saying, oh, no, I really did mean good, you know. Mechanism of the universe, tribunals of righteous adjudication. We're talking about perfection here. The rule of the creator sons in the local universes is one of creation in spirit to spiritualization. These sons devote themselves to the effective execution of the paradise plan of progressive mortal ascension, to the rehabilitation of rebels and the wrong thinkers. See, they're so dedicated to that. That's where the mercy comes in. But when all such loving efforts are finally and forever rejected, right? We sit you down, we have a whole council, an intervention, you reject, spit in the face. The final decree of dissolution is executed by forces acting under the jurisdiction of the Ancients of Days. So those are the beings that make the final decree, you know, and put it all into place. I don't know. It could be, honestly, it could be 90% of the people that come out of this world. I have no idea. But it's there, it's a thing, and it's perfect because I would want to live in a just universe where nobody's laughing all the way to the bank. It might seem like it during this one short life in the flesh, but then when you get on to the next thing, there's going to be some sort of accountability. And remember, you pick up on the other side where you leave off here, and that's the progression idea. It's not just one, okay, I believe in God. That's like entry level type of, that's like your entry ticket into universe progression, is that you have a faith attitude. But then it's all about mastery, doing the divine will even more, and gaining, learning, experiencing, learning, and on into eternity. So we have beauty awaiting us. It's just this world that it might seem like it is hashed up and mixed up, but that doesn't have to be a reality for you, because as soon as you have a change of heart and you begin walking in the light, all this stuff starts making sense. It's not a life of ease, but and you don't want a life of ease. You want to be tried and tested down there in the nitty gritty on this planet. But it will make sense, though. You won't be throwing your hands up and say, "Why, God, why?" You'll say, "Oh, all right, I get that. I understand that. Let's move on. Let's advance." So that's just a little bit about justice and righteousness, folks. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. And thank you so much for all those who already have. And take care of yourselves. Carry on and on and on into eternity, because that's all there is for spiritual beings. Never ending, folks.